Wow, it couldn't last forever. We've had such great weather in the whole of Korea. We have been spoiled. We're going to go inside places today. We're going to the War Memorial and then the museum and some other places. So yeah, so that's the plan. And cue not montage of walking because it's raining.
Maybe cue cool rainy footage.
Rainy footage. Nice static shots. Very aesthetic, very artsy.
Go. Brothers tests of a dramatic moment. South Korean officer and his younger brother, a North Korean soldier, encounter and embrace each other at the battlefield. The crack in the dome represents the division of North and South Korea. So the exhibition starts with a look into ancient Korean battles that the Korean people have fought over their histories, specific great battles including the Great Battle Victory of Gwinju and the use of the turtle ships and their success and victory against the Japanese, looking at the Korean Empire and also at the Japanese occupation period, tough time that brought Korea to the Second World War. It was after the Second World War that tensions led to outbreak of Korean War, and that's what the majority of this museum has a focus on. Multi-arrow launcher, Korean weapons that helped them in the Japanese and against the Mongols. Also a cannon-fired arrow, which is just a bazooka. Storming the castle. Japanese rule was repressive. In 1919, many Koreans took part in peaceful demonstrations or for independence. The Japanese responded by arresting and executing thousands of people. They also sent many Koreans to force work in Japan, as well as forcing women into sex work over in Japan. In the 1930s, the Japanese persuaded them to adopt Japanese names. From 1938, education was only in Japanese. School children were forbidden to speak Korean, and the Japanese also tried to persuade Koreans to adopt Shinto, the Japanese religion. During World War II, many Koreans either volunteered or were forced to work for Japan. However, Japanese attempts to turn Korea into part of Japan were ended in 1945 when they surrendered to the Allies. After the Japanese surrender and after the end of the Second World War, Korea was split into two, over the 38th parallel, North Korea being controlled by Russia and South Korea being controlled by the US. It was something that Young said yesterday. North Korea had been kitted out by the Soviets and trained by the Soviet army. South Korea were trained as US reserves, so were not fully prepared for the war like the North were. It took 3 days for Seoul to fall, and eventually the North would push South Korean people and its armies all the way to Busan. That's where the refugee villages and the huge refugee movement that happened and formed in Busan that we saw earlier. With the work of US and Korean forces, they built up a final defence line in early August. Busan was the main port of entry for the UN's forces, indispensable for the arrival of them and supplies to South Korea. In September, when the majority of North Korean forces had been concentrated along the Nakdong River, South Korean and UN forces staged landings at Incheon to recapture Seoul. With the success of the Incheon landings, South Korea and the UN forces turned the tide on the war. After successfully pushing North Korean forces back to the 38th parallel, the UN forces agreed to help push further into North Korea in order to finally reunify the two Koreas into one. They successfully pushed all the way up to the North Korean capital, Pyongyang. It was then that China fulfilled their promise and dedicated their forces to help push the US forces back as they approached the Chinese border. Finally, in 1953, the armistice was signed and the Korean War was halted, but then the DMZ was formed, which held off war but never reached peace until 2018, when the final decision to end the Korean War was made between North and South Korean leaders. Sixteen UN countries dispatched ground troops and 6 countries sent medical troops to Korea, urged by the UN Security Council. This was the first time in the world that the UN had organised their forces together to help one nation. The Korean War lasted 3 years and resulted in a tremendous number of casualties and property damage in Korea. Casualties reached approximately 1,500,000 persons. The war destroyed 42% of industrial and 1/3 of the residential houses. After war, 38 nations pledged to support and aid Korea in its establishment and redevelopment after the devastation of the war. Overwhelming the support and the recognition of the support that the UN made to South Korea in fighting and giving their lives. And then all of this then links to what we learnt yesterday, which was all about the formation of the DMZ and the terrible and horrible situation that Korea still finds itself in, even though it all started. I say it all started, this museum has prompted or shown that it's been going on for so long. Even before the Korean War, there was the Second World War, and before the Second World War, there was the Japanese colonial time period. It would be lovely, an amazing thing to see this change within our lifetimes. I feel slightly bad that we only really scratched the surface of the history of the Korean War, and there is so much more to unpack. There was so much devastation, so much destruction, but the kind of glimmer of hope was just the rallying together of the UN and the other forces to the South Korean aid. Give you a little bit of hope and a little bit of kind of faith in humanity, and I am so proud to have my grandfather as one of those people who went and took a little boat for months to Korea to help out in his own way. But yeah, that's South Korean, well, that's the Korean War. Let's wander in the rain and
Go to find a little bit to eat.
go learn some more things,
Yeah.
go look at some cool things, and then go get some food.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Korean War Museum.
Very edifying.
That was a very, very well put together museum. That's it. Let's go. The camera's getting wet. We're happy we can get to the National Museum of Korea without going in the rain. Here we are at the National Museum of Korea. Let's go look at some pretty things.
Yeah, you get inside.
Let's get inside. What's interesting is it all links up to stuff that we've learned throughout our whole trip, which of course we start off with all the Neolithic, Bronze Age, and then we're moving into the Bajek Kingdom, the Silla Kingdom, which we learned a little bit about when we were in Gyeongju, the Silla capital, and then we get to unified Silla, the Baha'i Kingdom, the Goryeo dynasty, and then the Yongsan dynasty, which we started off with when we started in Seoul.
Yeah. No, don't harass him. Don't retaliate.
You just want to make it shut.
I know. Yay!
It's not currently raining.
Not currently raining. Okay, that was a really cool museum. Loved that. It was nice to kind of pull together all the knowledge that we've gained the last couple of weeks.
It's like looking out and seeing the stuff about the Silla dynasty and the Three Kingdoms, and then seeing the artifacts for it, being like, oh, we saw that in Gyeongju.
Being able to kind of place it in your head.
Yeah, and
really
then
cool.
the Yongsan dynasties and all of that.
Yeah.
It's really, really interesting.
Yeah, so from ancient history to more modern history, we're going to we're going to go to a place now that sells some retro arcade and games consoles, that kind of thing. So here we go. Walking through this station. I think if you're in Korea and you want to build a PC, this is the place to come. Here we are. I think I found it. Oh wow! They've got so much cool stuff. Lego. Oh my god! Look how many. This is so cool. What is it? Eren Yeager? What's that?
That's Ninjago, Star Wars.
They got Incredibles as well.
There's 3 of mine that I've worked on there.
That's so cool. Yeah, you did that. That's so cool. See it in. That's very cool. You're so proud of that game, aren't you?
What?
It's not Shadow of Ronin, is it?
No.
Shadow of Ronin.
Oh, I was really proud. It's my first ever game.
That is so cool. It's so cool. This is history right here. I love these. Oh yeah? We got all the collector's editions of stuff here. That's so cool. Pool noodle soup.
Oh, nice. Let's try that.
Can we get a seafood pancake as well?
Yes, please.
Hell yeah.
This looks good with that. Oh, just a pot of kimchi.
Right, we need to give ourselves some kimchi.
Yummy. Ready to eat?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Get in. Right, hold on. I'm going to try something.
Where's your go? Nice. Nice. But it's delicious.
It's like a really big, tasty udon noodle.
It's delicious with like
Really
a spring onion kind of soup.
Yeah, it's so good.
Yum, 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 yum. Amazing place. Definitely recommend. You would never know.